Well, welcome everyone. Um, I think most of you know who I am, but just in case you don't, I'm Tracy with the State Library. And it's my pleasure to be facilitating today's webinar with Amir, who I'm going to introduce in just a few moments. Some of you might be new to this series, so I want to give you a little bit of background. We started this last year, and we kicked it off with Dr. Greg Gilpin, who's an economist based at the Montana State University in Bozeman. And the idea behind this series was many library directors and library board members and library staff were talking about how to better connect with their county commissioners and their city council members and how to communicate the value of the library. And we realized in working with those officials that a lot of the work that economists do actually uses language that makes sense to your leaders in your communities. And so we've been very, very fortunate to be able to have this series where we have economists who have completed studies about libraries come and talk about their studies and help us give the language that you might be able to use if you're ever talking to a city council member or a county commissioner about what your library really does with the community. So let me introduce Amir. Dr. Amir Neto is the director of the Regional Economic Research Institute and an assistant professor of economics at Florida Gulf Coast University. You can read his bio on the screen. What I would like to share about Amir is he was very gracious when this stranger from Montana reached out to him and said, "Hey, could you come talk about your study about public libraries and crime?" And he also mentioned to me that he's a researcher and loves kind of studying the details and the how. I would say he's at heart an educator. When Coley and I met with him to prepare for this webinar, he was clearly thinking about you as the learner and wanting to present something that was of value to you and that you could use in your work as practitioners in the field. And I share that because I do want to encourage you to ask questions as Amir is doing his presentation. If there's something that is confusing or that you would like to ask about, please post it in the chat. Coley and I will be monitoring that, and we will interrupt Amir and ask your question. It makes for a very rich conversation when people ask questions, and I think it helps deepen our understanding as well. And so with that, Amir, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right. So, face to the presentation. Hi, everyone. I'm Amir Neto. I'm the director of the Regional Economic Research Institute here at Florida Gulf Coast University. I'm a regional economist, and it's interesting. I loved like being connected when Trace and Colette reached out because my dissertation actually was on public libraries like 5 years ago. So it is a topic and an institution that I'm passionate about, and I think it's understudied in the economic field. So there is a lot for us to think about and learn in this intersection of the operations and the things that public libraries are providing, and how it can help us understand economic phenomenon and issues. And so please stop at any point in time, ask questions. That's the best way for us to have a conversation. And I'll go from there. So this paper, the research question is it's in the title. Do public libraries help mitigate crime? And we look at the evidence from Kansas City, Missouri. So that's what we're going to be looking into here. It's a case study in Kansas City. I will talk a little bit more about the context, but it's a unique context that allowed us to use a very well-established tool in our economist toolkit, which people had very little pushback on what we are doing and why. So, but again, it's a case study, and we should just think about that as with a grain of salt. So, but we'll go from there. If you are, if you're bored with my talk and you want to leave, at least you know the results. So the results are what we find is public libraries are associated with a reduction in burglary, vandalism, robbery, fraud, and assault within a nearby proximity of the public library building. Proximity here, we're thinking about up to 3 miles of proximity. Also, public libraries, the public library we are looking at was associated with a reduction in the counts of total offenses against people. So about 42 less counts of offense, and on property crimes, about 154 crimes. But we didn't see any effect of the library presence in terms of offense against society and other types of offense. And I'm going to explain a little bit about this different. It's pretty much how the law enforcement classifies it. Like, right, if you think about burglary, that would be a crime against people, but you can think about vandalism as a crime against property, and fraud as a crime against society, right? So while we see these individual types of crime being affected, when we look at the overall crimes against people, crimes against property, we see this that is not for the whole type of crime, it's just for certain specific types of crime. So it's more detailed and really in a broader perspective. And then I think that's important for us to start thinking about, especially US librarians, to think about, okay, so why is that the case? Like, I have some theories and you can push back on that and or help me further think about that, and maybe we'll find some interesting ideas for future projects here today. But also to understand these nuances, right? So yeah, it makes sense that this mechanism is in place here, but that not in that other place. The other thing we do find is that the effects are closer to the library building, but as we move farther and farther away, these effects, they pretty much vanish. They go to tend towards zero. So it's really about that public library building, if that makes sense. It's not only about the institution, but it's about the presence of the library, which is important to think here in the context that we're going to be describing. So why look at crime in public libraries, right? Well, I think the first interesting piece from an economics standpoint is thinking about the public finance perspective of crime, and from public libraries, right? So if you think about public libraries in the public finance perspective, I don't know the current situation, but up until December, most of the funding was coming from the federal government, if I'm not mistaken, and state governments. So that was a lot of the funding from of libraries came from the government. Therefore, is that money? I think the numbers I had for 2019 was like something in terms of like $11 billion that the public library system in the US cost. So it, from that alone is a lot of money that is being used for an important institution. So we have this public finance aspect of how money is being spent. But then we think about the public finance aspect of crime as well, where we can think about crime being estimated at costing almost $3.5 trillion annually. If we look into the like this Miller et al. Paper found that for that same 2017 years, we're looking at $2.6 trillion in crime rates and all their associated expenses from investigation, prosecution, and incarceration. So it's a lot of money that the US is spending on crime. So any effort that can be done and that is already in practice, right? We are already funding public libraries. So if we can find evidence that this is helping to curb or deter some of this crime, it is less money that is going to be spent or needed to fight this crime and to prosecute, so on and so forth. So in that sense, it's interesting, right, from this public finance aspect per se. But then as we dig deeper and think about the theoretical perspective or the theoretical ideas of how would urban amenities affect crime. So we can think about the marginal benefits and the marginal costs of crime, right? So here I'm thinking about if I were to commit that additional crime, like that additional robbery, that additional assault, what is the benefit I get from that, and what is the cost that I have for that, right? So the benefit is maybe the money that I'm getting from that one. Maybe it's it's pretty much the benefits, right? It's the joy. Maybe you like to be a criminal and you get joy from it, but most likely you're doing it because you want money. So you have the financial aspect. But then you have a cost associated to that, which is we can think about the cost of being incarcerated, uh, the cost, the opportunity cost of doing the criminal activities that you're not pursuing a another career, maybe in another industry, right? So as we think about urban amenities, they can affect both sides, the benefits and the costs of crime. Therefore, it remains an empirical question to is it really affecting the benefits of crime or is it affecting the costs? And if it's affecting the costs, are we seeing this deterrence, or if it's affecting benefits, is it actually contributing for more crime? And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this, how they are, we're going to talk about these theoretical mechanisms in a minute, but that's part of the motivation, is that it's an empirical question. So the more case studies, the more research we can do on this, we're never gonna have a definite answer, but it's always like with a precise say, oh, libraries reduce crime in this amount, but we will be able to say, well, libraries have this effect on crime because of X, Y, and Z, and that's where this research lies. It's another piece of the larger puzzle, if you will. So far so good. Are we in good shape? Hopefully. Um,
Yes.
so before I get into the crime itself, I like to take a pause and think about what are the externalities of public library activities. So externalities in economics are, you can think about spillover effects, right? So the primary, you can think about, I know the public library is much more than that, but let's think just on what people think about the most is like borrowing a book, right? So let's say the main business, so quote unquote main business, don't kill me here, please. I know I'm talking to librarians. So quote unquote, let's say the main business of the library is lending books, right? So the benefit and the cost would be really getting the cost of going to the library, getting that book, reading the book. There is a opportunity cost associated, and the benefit, it's really for the consumer, right? I'm thinking from the consumers, is the joy from reading the book, maybe the learning, so on and so forth. However, when I'm thinking about externalities outside this interaction from me with the library, what else is affected because of this interaction, right? So usually externalities are thought through the traditional example is pollution, right? So there is, as I'm polluting, it's not only affecting me, but it's affecting other institutions, other people as well. So that's the idea. So when we think about externalities of public libraries, I'm thinking, what else have we found in the literature that suggests that public library activities impact other things other than this primary function, right? So there is this paper by Porter. I believe it was his dissertation as well, his job market paper in California. And he he looks at the hours of operations from libraries, which there is a variation on that. And he found that the hours of operations negatively affected aggravated assaults rates and car burglaries. So the more hours of operation, the less assault rates and car burglaries. However, what we really, but it did that in the nearby proximity of the library, but it didn't affect crime overall in the region. It really just pushed that crime farther out. So it's more of a displacement rather than reduction per se. Um, on the education side, there is the work of Gilpin there in Montana, Carger that I know came here to speak with you, Ezra Carger, right? And then an older paper by Bach that shows that having a library card, going to the library, participating in programs, using the library in different way, shape, and form, improve reading and homework completion and student outcomes. So it's not only about that joy of the book or the program itself, it's translating into students doing better. Peter Nenchka and his colleague has a very interesting paper that came about at the same time as mine. My first paper that I'm talking later, it was also Peter's, I think it was Peter's job market paper as well. And they look at patenting. So it's a really cool paper where they look at cities in which that received Carnegie Library funding. And they found that those cities that were awarded money by the Carnegie Foundation early on and had Carnegie libraries, they had higher rates of patenting. So they were more innovative cities. And a paper of mine, that was my job market paper back in 2019, and another paper by Carger in 2021. Or the same paper actually with education, they found, both of them find that public library activities, in my case was program participation, have beneficial effects on unemployment rate and labor force participation. So lower unemployment rate and larger labor force participation. So in that sense, we can see how public library is more or produce more than just that direct benefit to the community on a specific program or the book accessibility, so on and so forth. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but I think it's nice for us to start identifying what in the economics literature we have already identified. So libraries are to some extent pro-social organizations, right? So how can we think about pro-social organizations and crime? So there is some literature that will show that there is mixed evidence here. In some cases, there is results showing that nonprofits will mitigate local criminal activity. However, there are other papers that will find that there is either no statistical significance on mitigation or even it may drive criminal activity. And what we do know is that are heterogeneous effects. So the effects are different by the different types of organizations. So whatever we find for public library, maybe it's not the same as a Rotary Club or the same as a United Way. So these different nonprofits will have different effects on crime, not only by the type of organization, by the age of organization. So, for example, this paper by Slocum, they find that more organizations have an overall areas with more pro-social organization have lower crime incident. However, school and government agencies, including public libraries, are associated with increased crimes. Here, the point here, though, is that we need to be careful to not say it's causal, right? It may be that there are more police. It's one of those situations, right? If there is more crime, we see more police. Do we see more police because we see more crime, or do we see more crime because we see more police? So we need to be careful to not say that this year public libraries are causing crime. So I'm not saying that. this paper is much more on these associations and whatnot. It may be that it's truly because of the type of area and some of the context in that area that correlates higher uh, crime with government agencies, for example, right? So, but I think this also helps us understand the framework to which we in the economics and social sciences have been seeing in terms of pro-social organizations and criminal activity. So how would public library affect crime, right? So I want to think about the theoretical mechanisms here. I will not be able to test those mechanisms, but they would be in play in some way, shape, or form. And it would be really interesting to be able to disentangle that. We just don't have the data for it, to be honest. So again, so the way economists think about crime is through a Beckerian perspective. So Gary Becker, Nobel Prize winner, everything for him was about economics, and everything could be modeled in an economic perspective, thinking about a maximization problem. So in the end, it's all about marginal benefit and marginal crime. If the marginal benefit is greater than the marginal cost, I'm gonna do whatever it is. If the marginal cost is greater than the marginal benefit, I'm gonna stop. Uh, when I'm thinking about marginal here, I'm thinking about that additional. It's that next piece of, it's that next assault. It's that one additional crime to be committed. It's not the average, right? It's about, do I do one more? Like if you think about, I don't know, if you guys are on Netflix and you watch some shows, there's I was watching Kaleidoscope like about a month ago, and they were like, oh, I'll do it's my last kind of situation, right? That's kind of what we're thinking. Is it gonna be my last one, or am I gonna be doing another one? I'm looking at that next job, right? If you will. So when I'm thinking about the benefits of crime, I'm thinking about the um, sorry. So when I'm thinking about the benefits, I'm thinking about the gains from the criminal activity. So being able to um, uh, make more from the criminal effort. Um, so for example, public libraries can be a focal point in the neighborhood, which would induce an agglomeration of communal activities. So there's more people in that area. Because there are more people, there is more targets. The likelihood of being successful increases. So I would have more benefits of going and being a criminal closer to a library, right? We can also think about the programs from children and adults, where if you don't have if you are not if you don't have educational opportunities, you don't have a good outside option, so the benefits of crime increase. But that is also true for the cost. If you have an outside option, this should have been on the cost as well. The benefit, the uh, these opportunities, these programs of children and adults, the more likely they are to be in the labor market, the better are their outside options. Therefore, it also reduces the cost of, um, it reduces the benefit of the crime, right? Because you have a better outside option, and your time is better used elsewhere. So sorry, let me go back a little bit. So the programs to children and adults, because they are going to improve literacy and labor market outcomes, it reduces the benefits of crime because they have better outside option. libraries as a focal point bring people together. Therefore, there's more targets. Hence, the probability of success is higher, which makes the benefit go up. Good. I think now I'm more clear. Cool. Tracy, you are the one shaking head, so I'm looking at you. I'm
Yes, yeah,
gonna
I'm
let
glad
you
you
know
went back
that.
because I was gonna ask you. I was like, I was confused, but let me make sure I get it and you can tell me. So I think what you're saying is, and you're looking at the public library effect on crime, and you're pointing out that when public libraries provide programming for children and adults, they might be giving people who perhaps feel like they need to turn to crime to survive, they might be giving them an education and options that reduces the benefit of committing a criminal act. Is that
Exactly. Yeah. So
okay?
yeah,
Okay.
so let's say you could commit a crime and you're gonna make $10 an hour, or you're gonna get, I'm gonna help you get a job somewhere and you're gonna make $15 an hour. The benefit of the crime is reduced because before my outside option was 0 compared to 10. Yes, let's commit a crime. But now my outside option is 15 compared to 10. So let's go to my outside option and the benefit of the crime is reduced, right? Then with the focal point is that idea of the likelihood of you being successful on your criminal venture. When I'm thinking about the cost of crime, really the cost of crime is incarceration because you are taken away from your family, you're taking away any job prospect, so on and so forth. So on the one hand, while the crowds, so I'm gonna go to the second point before, while the crowds increase the likelihood of being um, successful, it also increases the probability of, so it's not while, so it's two, so it's both. It's the likelihood of success is higher, but it's easier for me to hide away. So my marginal cost of committing the crime is lower because it's less likely that I'm going to be caught up because I can blend easily in a larger crowd, right? However, the physical presence of the library provides more eyes on the street. We have cameras, we have the police, we have nicer areas. Therefore, that eyes on the street uh, increases the marginal cost of crime. So as you can see here from the 4 points and the marginal benefit and the marginal cost, one of the marginal benefits is lower, the other increases, and the same is true for the marginal cost. So which one prevails, which one is at play, I cannot tell you because for once they go on different directions and we have the two sides of the equation. So it's really messy to try to disentangle that, but I think that's where this research has a lot of potential moving forward. Sorry, I spent a little bit too much time here, but I think it was important for us to think about these mechanisms. And I think it's where really there is a lot of where economists can partner with librarians to do research. And there is opportunities out there. Anyways, so let me talk about the context, the case study that we are looking at. So as I mentioned, we're looking at Kansas City, Missouri, and in particular, I'm looking at the Woodneath Public Library branch. So for 20 years, we didn't have any opening or close of public libraries in Kansas City, Missouri. It was the same public library branch for 20 years. And in June 2013, Woodneath Public Library was inaugurated. So that allows us to think through a quasi-experiment. We could argue that the shock of the opening is almost as a random shock on crime. And therefore, anything that we see post could be causal. It's because of the library. It's not because of anything else. It is the library. So some context about the Woodneath. It was built on a 33-acre farmland adjacent to a historic farmhouse, which was owned by a prominent family in the region. So you could come to me and say, well, Amir, So you're talking about a rich area, and maybe the library was part of a gentrification. Well, not really. We didn't see, it is a wealth suburb of Kansas, and there was very little efforts to gentrify that community. It was already a suburb, was already better off. So what I'm looking here, so the way we're doing this, we're gonna be doing what we call a difference in difference approach. And before going to the method, I want to kind of clarify. It doesn't matter that the Woodneath area had lower levels of crime because we're not comparing the levels, we are comparing the trends. So the assumption here is that the trends on that area, on that Woodneath area, was similar to other parts of Kansas City, the crime trends. If it is increasing, it's increasing at the same rate for both sides. However, when the library opens, it changes that trend in hopefully decreasing, and that's what we are interested here. So it's not about the level, it's about the trend. So I'm not particularly concerned that it is a suburb compared to the city center. That would be usually that has been something that could be a pushback, and I'm trying to just explain why I'm not concerned, and you may not buy that. Again, it's an assumption. We have some evidence, and you can push back on that if you want. So this is the cool part in my mind as well. It's like how we're doing it, right? So let me explain to you. So each of these points here, it's where the different public library branches were in Kansas City, which is this larger gray area. So what we do here is we calculate the distance from the Woodneath Public Library to the closest one, which is North Oak. And then we split that into two. So that is pretty much 6 mile radius, 6 mile distance. So this circle here is a 2.96 mile radius. So as you can see, there is no overlapping between the Woodneath area and any of the other public libraries. So because all these public libraries here existed for over 20 years, these 2.6 mile radius areas across these public libraries here have always been treated by a public library. So they are not really a good control group because there has always had a public library there. So what we look is we exclude all these areas from our analysis. And what we're going to look is going to be two areas. The area that is inside this blue circle, and the whole gray area here, we're going to say it's the rest of Kansas City, pretty much. Does that make sense? That's the idea. So here you have a better a different view of what we are comparing. So you can see here that it is quite different, this area from this area, but this area is similar to this area. And in the end, we are not comparing these areas, we are comparing everything else that is inside here with this little area.
So you're basically, if I'm understanding because this was a new branch, you could truly look at the trends in crime. And so you were looking within that circle and also comparing it to the gray areas and kind of taking out the red circles, basically.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we want to see, so because there was no library, say, okay, let's put a library and then we can look at the trend on that area. But then if we compare to this area here, there was always a library there. So that is kind of contaminating the crime rate there already by a library. So it's hard for us to see if the library had an effect. So what we do is we remove any potential effects of the library in a similar area that what we defined and say, okay, let's just look at the rest that had not been affected by a library, right? So if you look at these areas here, here, they are not in the same proximity to a public library. So they are our control group. Think about an randomized control idea, right? You have two samples of the population, one that you give a placebo, one that you give the treatment. That's the idea. Here's the treatment. These guys here got the placebo. Good. All right. So what are we doing then? So let's take a look at the data. So I love the public library survey. So I'm so let me say here to the libraries, thank you for filling that out. I can only imagine the time and energy you guys invest on that, but I love the public library survey. When I found that out, that's what I got my whole dissertation out of from. It was the public library survey. That's where I started my dissertation. But I used the public library survey to find out when public libraries open and closed and their location, because since 2010, the IMLS, they provide the geolocation of each public library branch, which is awesome. Then there is this data set that at the time it's called the Crime Open data set. It's freely available for everyone to use. And they had data from 2010 to 2019 on about 16 major regions in the country. So what we did is, let's look at every city. So how did I get to the Kansas City idea? I look at the 16 cities, which one had openings or closes of public libraries. Most of them had, but what they had was some had openings and closes. No one only had one openings or closes. Most of them had mixed evidence. So what we were going here for is let's get the cleanest case study as possible, and then we can do a more generalized study later. But we wanted to get a very clean case study where we could say this is what we find. So again, crimes against property, larceny, burglary, destruction, fraud, counterfeiting, etc. This is the count of of offenses. If we look of offenses, offense against the person, we're thinking about assault, sex offenses, homicide, kidnapping, human trafficking. When you think about society, we can think about drugs, trespassing, DUIs, prostitution, drunkenness, gambling, so on and so forth. And then we have everything else. We don't look at all of these. We chose some of them to have to look into, and we report on everything that we look at. We don't say, oh, we just look at some. No, we chose the ones we thought were most likely to be affected by the library based on these options, and then that's where we looked at. So how do we do it? It's very simple. It's going to be looking into the gray area, comparing to this blue area before the library and after the library. So this is what this equation here means. This alpha guy here gives me the average criminal offenses within the whole area before Woodneath opened. Then I have the treatment. So that gives me the difference between crime before and after the Woodneath for the Woodneath area. So in essence, that is capturing the systematic difference between treatment and control. So for example, it may be that the control group, our group, always had less crime, which is usually the case. And I don't mind that. Again, what we care about is the different trends. The gamma parameter here gives me the before and after 2013, regardless of where you are. It can be Woodneath or not. So this gives us the systemic average trend, the difference between not treatment control, but the between before and after. This is wrong here, sorry. But it's this difference between before Woodneath and after Woodneath. And then gamma is what the one we care about. This is here's what I really care about. So this quantifies the change in criminal offense incidents in the proximity of Woodneath branch. So okay, if we assume, and this is the assumption, right? That the trend of both the control and treatment, they were parallel to each other. And then Woodneath is exogenous shock, and it changes that trend. We can say that the changing trend is caused by Woodneath. So my assumption here is twofold. One is that the parallel, they had similar trends, and the Woodneath opening is kind of exogenous. There is no way that people anticipate to the Woodneath library. We do some robustness check to try to get to that. One of the problem is that the construction of the library actually started in 2010. So all the crime data I have actually has some sort of the Woodneath presence, either through the construction or the presence itself. However, we did a lot of robustness. We did a couple of robustness checks that I think are sufficient, in our opinion, to show that there is this effect of the library on crime. So again, I'm focusing here on this last line. So in green here are the ones that are statistically significant. So Woodneath opening reduces burglary, reduces vandalism, reduces murder, robbery, and fraud. Here is at a 10% level, so you can say, hey, maybe not, but robbery, fraud, vandalism, burglary, I would say definitely. And we can compare that to the amount, right? So burglary, so let's say we had a total of 17,000 burglaries. So this is 32 less burglaries close to the Woodneath library. I don't know how much was that so on average, we had about 171 crimes by month, year. We're doing that every month, every year. If we look at the Woodneath area had less crime than everywhere else, than the control group, less burglary. After 2013, the whole region saw more crime, but again, the area closer to Woodneath, after Woodneath, saw 31 less burglars. That's how we read all these different parameters here. I will only focus on these guys here for the interest of time. The same is for persons related. So we see the disorderly conduct. Again, 10%, you can push back on that. And then you see the assault more statistically significant. And then what do? I'm going to show you two things so I can wrap up soon. So total offense by type, we did that by total. We did it by varying radius. So we look at the 1 mile, like by half mile until the 3 mile. And you see how the results, for example, from motor vehicles, they are really strong here, but as you move further away, that's pretty much the result for everything. They are very significant close by, but as you move further away, they pretty much tend to zero, or they decrease very much. So that's the idea here. And the other thing we did is maybe the Woodneath it's not the Woodneath library, it's just that location. So what we did is, let me go back here to the map. what we did is we chose 1,000 random points across the Kansas City, and we did the same analysis. And then as we did the analysis, we created these distributions. So the idea is if the amount we got are, if we are, if this, let's look at this larceny here. So larceny, for example, if our estimated parameter, which is this guy here, is outside of this area here, which includes the 0, this is not statistically significant. So maybe larceny is not really, maybe was not really the library, but burglary, you see how the estimate and the confidence interval do not include the 0. So burglary, we are confident that it was that location. It was that location, not some randomness. DUI, maybe not, but weapon for certain. So assault for certain. So, and total, that's the most important, like total crime reduction. Yes, it's not a random thing. It was really about the width. So that's why this is an interesting idea. So why do public libraries reduce criminal offense? Well, maybe it's not much of a deterrence, but the additional components like infrastructure, number of pedestrians, security cameras, they may act as deterrent. Libraries can act as safe havens from dangers on the street life. We know they also are safe havens for families. So maybe you're not being hit at home because you're not at home and you are at a public library doing a good program, right? The building itself are used in instances such as natural disasters, emergency civil unrest. So you have that safe haven associated with public libraries. And again, population living in poverty they are going to be the ones that are going to get the most benefits out of the public libraries. So that's why we should see these larger effects, for example, in crime. So this is kind of how we argue of the mechanisms that could be behind it, thinking about that theoretical perspectives that we had before. So policy, well, the physical presence of the library versus the programmatic activity. So both can contribute to criminal reduction. We just cannot say if it's which one was the one in this case. Again, the physical presence increases the cost of crime by increasing the probability of arrest. Programs should help educational and creative outcomes that increases the likelihood of a successful career, increasing the opportunity cost of pursuing a criminal career, meaning you have a better outside option. That's what this whole blurb here is. You have a better outside option. So local governments, when they're thinking about how much funding they should be allocating to these institutions, because you have spillover effects, you have these externalities, that should be part of the consideration. We call them externalities in economics because the idea is that neither the total cost or the total benefit of that activity or institution is being taken into account. So this here helps us say, hey, you see, there is these other benefits that it's not on our budget, right? And on your budget, you're going to say, well, we need this amount for staff, books, programs, etc., etc. There is no crime reduction, but in the end, all those activities is also reducing crime. So that's the externality that is not being put into the numbers itself. That's why we call that an externality. It's because the cost or benefit is not being accounted for. So that's pretty much it. That's where I end. I went a little bit over my time, but I think we have like 10 minutes for some questions, comments, concerns. Please feel free to push back on anything I said.
So please feel free to enter your questions or comments. So Amir, I just kind of to make sure that I'm kind of understanding it, like when we think about this with public libraries, like you said, it's a case study, so it may be different depending on the cities. But there is this element of libraries actually doing preventive kinds of things in perhaps providing programming and access to materials that, like you said, could help someone choose a career and not engage in criminal activities. But there's also this element of their presence and the security cameras and the eyes on the street, which may help reduce crime around that immediate area. So it's kind of both preventive and I don't know what you call the eyes on the street part of it, but maybe more active public safety kind of enforcement. Is that what did I get what you were kind of trying to say as the study revealed?
Yeah, so because we find this reduction, right? So it's both, the idea is that both the marginal benefit of crime was reduced and the marginal cost was increased, right? To which extent these are, is it the cost or is it the benefit that reduced the most or increased or reduced the most? We don't have that, but that's because we saw the crime reduction. We know that a combination of those two are in place. So it has to be about the programmatic side, which you reduce the benefit of crime, and it is about the increasing cost of criminal activity by having the, like in some public libraries, sometimes you're gonna have a cop presence, if not at all times, at some point in times. But you do have the cameras, you do have the librarians. But uh, I think the public library building is just a piece of the puzzle, and I do believe where I think that's the short term. So if you were to think, if you're gonna ask me, I mean, okay, so how would I think about this? I think the building has a short term effect on crime, uh, by because of this deterrence. Like it's the police, it is the camera, and maybe I'm not gonna commit a crime there because I may be caught. But when we think about the long term, it has to be about the programs, because it is about helping people get jobs, be better educated, be better citizens, be better participants of the community. And all that is through this programmatic. It's not the building itself. The building is not doing that. It's really through your work and the programs that you are doing where you can truly do it. And I think that is very much in line with the externalities of public libraries that I discussed, right? So if we think about the first paper on crime by Porter, he's looking at operating hours. So it's not only the presence, but truly people engaging in activities there. When we think about the reading and homework, the it's not about the having the library, but it's the use of the library card, it's the use of library that is allowing better reading and better homework completion. On my paper was really the amount and of uh, public library programs and the participation on the programs. So it's not only do you have programs, but are people engaging on programs? And that's what drove, like it was the engagement that really drove my results, for example. So that's how I like to think about it. Yes, it is short term, maybe in that, like maybe the adult program is helping on the short term, but the children program is gonna have the long term impact, right? So I think everything is working in that direction. Uh, so when I say I think our results are generalizable in the direction, if that makes sense. So I believe that in this like based on this context, I would be confident to say, well, public libraries are associated with a reduction in crime. Maybe not causing itself, but it's very much associated. We found like I can make causal claims in my paper, I believe so. But if I'm generalizing, I'm gonna say it's gonna be associated with less crimes. The Where I was going with that. So I think so yeah, in a direction perspective, it is. The magnitude, it's where I think it's more a case to case. Is it going to be a very large impact or is it going to be a smaller impact? And I think that depends on the context of each branch and each library system.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Looks like we have a question from Monica. She says, when crime is more prevalent within a library because of privacy within the library, no cameras, small staff, what may be done? So I think she's talking about some libraries might see, and you didn't really study this, you were looking at the neighborhood, but some libraries might have more issues within the library.
Yeah, I did not look within library. We look at where so it's really about where it was reported the crime. So
Gotcha.
we use the geotag. It may be that it was inside the library, but we are looking at this more broader impact. And the again, the interesting thing here is that, well, to one extent, maybe the eyes on the street is not going to be inside the library, but it's going to be outside, right? And
Mhm.
but to the very again, the very presence of the police there may be a deterrent to that. I don't know. I don't know if I have a good answer to that. Sorry.
Yeah, that is a good question. And then Mitch, I don't know if you're aware of any studies, but he was curious if similar effects would be seen in areas where a new public park or swimming pool or things like that were opened. And I don't know if you saw any studies about that.
I haven't looked into the other public amenities. I really focused when we were doing this, we focused on the literature on um uh, pro-social organizations. But if we
Mhm.
think through that theoretical mechanisms, uh the only piece that would be present on the park or on a public pool, for example, would be the physical presence. So just the really it would be really about the short term, like, hey, there is police, there is camera, there is people. But the programmatic side would not be a part of that. So to what extent that is what is driving our results, I don't know to if that would be the
That's an interesting point. I'm just waiting a few moments to see if anyone else has any other questions or comments while they might be typing. Amir, thank you
So
very
yes,
much for
Mitch,
this.
does all this approach says that the criminal actor is a rational person. That's our assumption, that they are comparing their cost and benefits. That's that's the way economists think. And it's not always true.
Yeah, I thought that was a good point from Mitch. There you go.
Yeah, so I'm happy to share the paper with you. I'll send the slides in the paper and to Tracy, and you can feel free to share that. And we did do when this paper got published, there was a an interview that was done on our local library and with a librarian as well. I can share that if you want to see also how that was talked about here. It's Southwest Florida, so it's Florida and we're in Southwest Florida, so there is that content that context to think about. Uh,
Mhm.
but it may be how at least would give you some insight on how people perceive that here.
That would be great. That would be very great. And we're seeing a lot of thanks, which you can probably see too. And I agree. I would love to read the paper.
Fantastic.
Thank
Yeah, I'll
you.
make sure to include that.
I have to admit, when I saw that calculus formula, I was like, oh, how's he going to explain this? But I think I got it, or at least most of it. So thank you very much, Amir. It was really a
Um,
pleasure to work with you today.
no, my pleasure. Thank you very much, everyone, for being here and the questions. Appreciate that. It was fun.
All right.